99% or more of messages processed under 5 seconds. So with that said, obviously I went to Gilbert, and I think Luke informed Luke that we need to do something fast about this to see how to resolve it. So I think this is where kind of it kicked off. And yeah, I think Gilbert asked Daniel to see how he can step in and support. So thanks. Go ahead.
Yeah, guys. Yeah, so based on all these stuff that was mentioned, right? The team have done an investigation. I think it was Martin that done the investigation. I forgot. So we noticed that the API is a bit slow. I mean, this was something that we knew, but it was what we found, right? Then we started to dig into a bit the problem. Let's say that we are not fast enough, okay? And then we had started with doing parallelization changes, and we also try to do asynchronous calling to the API. However, when we deployed that system to production, we changed a bit the logging, the way we log, and it was evident, right, that we were a bit slower. Then to try and help out with the new stuff, we deployed a logging change, and well, the official timing started to go out, and that's where all this started. So that's just a context from, I'm not sure if everyone knows that we rolled back twice the stuff that we wanted to deploy. So yeah, that's where we started. Then after all this, as Kurt mentioned, we try to see what we can do. Now, what we noticed is that we've been noticing for a while that fixture changes take a while to process, because when we get the fixtures from BetRadar, BetRadar send us a fixture message, let's say, which contains information about a new event that they have available. Now, it depends on the agreement that they have and what we pay for and what the providers book, let's say. Traders book. Let's say we book a couple of events that the provider provides. Now, before, what we used to do is that we used to ingest all this stuff in parallel, not in parallel, one after the other. If BetRadar opens 10 events, let's say, okay, they send us 10 fixture messages, we process them one after the other, okay? What that does is a fixture chain takes a bit long to process, let's say, because the API is a bit slow. What that does is it piles up the queue a bit, okay, that the messages that were coming in, and obviously it's the last messages that come in are always going to be a bit more delayed than the ones we process, since we process one after the other. So what we've done now, right, is that we've kind of, let's say, separated the concern of processing. So for messages that relate to events that are not important, let's say, right, we've put them on slower channels, okay? And for stuff we have on site, or stuff that we have bound, the traders have bound, they are on faster channels, let's say. By slow and fast, there's not really much difference, okay? What we mean is that it's okay for them to be slower to process, okay, than other stuff which is more important. So what do we distinguish between slow and fast? So what I've mentioned is the fixture messages, okay, for messages that are either new or else they're not booked from the provider, let's say, okay? So we put them on separate channels. If we receive messages for stuff we have on production, on, let's say, that's booked and on site, we put them on other channels, okay? So what does this do? Hopefully, in theory, okay, all changes that come in, or bet settlements, or I don't know, settlements, so either settlements, cancels, bet stops, or changes, and possible fixture changes, okay, for messages that are bound, for fixtures that are bound, are processed immediately. The other stuff can take a bit longer, so it's okay. So That the biggest difference is we are splitting bound fixtures with unbound fixtures. Okay. For fixtures that are not bound, by bound we mean traders have bound a game internally. Okay, so we have a game that came in from the provider, and they've booked it and bound it to internal games. So stuff which is not booked, okay, we are dropping everything, every other message that is not bound, okay, we're dropping them. We don't even process them anymore now, because it doesn't make sense to take up the processing power or processing power, let's say, to process them. Yes, Fede?
Sorry to interrupt then.
No
Just a
problem.
quick question. Do we have monitoring channels or a way to monitor how each one of them work? And if they are healthy, if they are processing data more or less the way we want it? Or we have like an like we just take care of the whole integration from a monitoring point of view?
For the channels, they are internal channels similar to the L-Sport stuff, let's say, okay? They are in memory queues, okay? And we do have logs on the processing time it took to process stuff.
Okay.
But that's about it. By monitoring, we don't have any particular monitoring on any individual channels.
Okay, but we
It's
have
the
that.
same.
Okay, but we have like logs in Graylog, I assume, or something like that.
Yeah, we do have logs that will tell you, for example, this message took, I don't know, 500 milliseconds to process.
Okay,
It's
cool.
delayed for 2 seconds, okay? But it
Okay.
won't tell you which channel it is or something, okay?
Okay, cool. Thanks.
It doesn't really matter, to be fair. What we identify is if it is a message process for bound fixtures or unbound fixtures, okay? That you will know, all right?
Fede, Kurt's created a dashboard. It'll be empty
Yes,
now,
I
but
will.
we'll be able
Yes.
to see that.
Yeah, so that but it was quite heavy on Graylog, right? So I'm not sure if we're gonna keep using that or a new
No,
one.
But this is different now.
that was for the sports, and I'm fixing that too. This
Okay.
one's okay. I'm gonna share you the link now.
Alright, cool. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, and so I'm sharing the screen. I'm not if you're seeing it, right? This is the dashboard. Let's say that.
If you go
Okay.
to the time picker of yesterday between 9 and 3, I think.
Have to go one day, I guess. Will it break?
No, just go no override. Click the no override icon. Absolute.
What
Just,
time is it?
like I think 9 a.m. yesterday to 4 p.m. or something. And
Let's
that
wait.
time
This. So 15. It's my time.
actually just do 0, 0 and 23, and then you can zoom in from the time from the graph. It's
What
easier.
time do you want?
Just do 0, 0 and 23 in the hours, and then you can zoom in from the graph. So yeah, just exactly.
No, I didn't know if it will break or not. So
Oh, it's good. So you want to explain these or
yes, no
we can
problem.
go?
So, based on what I was saying, right? So we are splitting the responsibility of the messages. Okay. So for messages for fixtures that are not bound yet, so it would be new fixtures that we've received from the trader. It can be booked or not booked, and it could also be auto booking from our end, right? But it's still a new game. Okay, it doesn't matter. They have separate unbound channels. At the moment, we've only created 5 channels for those kind of messages, okay? It's okay to be a bit slow. We know they are a bit slower. But it's fine to be slow, right? As long as it doesn't affect the OS changes or stuff that we have on production, okay? That stuff that people want to bet on, all right? So that is what we mean by bound and unbound channels. So unbound are for fixture messages only, okay? And that can be seen by this one, I believe. It's the unbound. So if you notice, we only have fixtures, okay, as a graph. And that is the only reason we only have fixtures, because as I said, for any stuff that is not fixture changes, we drop it immediately, okay? We don't hydrate it, we don't process it, we just literally drop it immediately, okay? and the rest are for bound stuff. So if you notice, for example, if you take a look at here on the top, total BR messages we've received is around 5,800, okay? In that same time, we also received around 3,200 messages, okay, related to unbound stuff, all right? So what we do with that is we drop it. Now, this number could be a bit high, okay, because we are also the traders had booked a lot of events, okay, let's say, but since we are not binding a lot, we're dropping a lot as well. All right, so that could be why we are a bit higher on this number. All right.
Question, guys. Does everyone understand what is bound and unbound? Because it's quite critical.
The unbound is
Yes.
basically the schedule information, right?
It's just fixture change messages for games that are not bound. Exactly.
So it's when you
So
go to
if I
end
go
game
on,
and do import.
the schedule. Mhm.
so by let me go here, 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 here. So
So
this is
basically-
booked stuff, right?
All this information, but it's not book.
So this is not a bound game, okay? Okay, is this clear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so all this stuff coming in, all right, is not something we need. Let's say. So we drop it. The only stuff that we process is fixture changes. And the reason we process fixture changes, okay, is so that if maybe a time has changed or competitors have changed, all right? So all this stuff is important, let's say, to keep it updated. However, odds and whatever settlement and stuff is not needed, okay? So it is dropped, right? For the other stuff that is bound, okay, we need to process them we still need to process them, okay? And that comes in and falls in line with what we had discussed before, where we process changes messages, okay, in parallel. So for that stuff, for that bound stuff, let's say, we have 100 internal channels, okay, and we process these in parallel, okay. So this is the same concept as we tried to do with the previous deployment, okay. However, it's, let's say, half of it, okay. So we went with only parallelization of the messages and not actually also asynchronously call the API at once, okay. So we're still synchronous inside the channels, okay, the calls as it was before. However, we're processing a lot of messages at once, okay.
So
We're still respecting the order of the events as well, so just to keep that in mind, all right. So messages related for a particular event are still being pushed on the same channel to respect the order, okay. This is stuff we had discussed before, so it's still the same concept.
Daniel, question there. This 3,247 of unbound message. It's
Unbound.
only fixture or also odds and all that stuff.
No, it will be fixture changes only for the simple
Fixture
reason,
changes.
okay.
Okay.
The other stuff we're dropping.
But do we still get odds from unbound fixtures?
It depends. If it is booked from the
If
control,
it's
yes, we do get odds.
if
Okay.
it's book. Okay.
If it's booked. So, for example, for this event, okay, this is booked. This is a booked event from BetRadar.
Yeah.
Okay. Since it is booked, the provider will send you the odds, will send you settlement, bet stop, bet cancels. They'll send you everything. Okay. So since you've booked it, the provider will send you the odds. Okay.
Okay.
So before we were still processing it, even though it might not be bound.
Okay, it's not imported to our database. Okay.
Yes. So what we are doing now is we don't need it. Okay. We drop it. We don't process it. Okay.
Okay, makes sense.
It doesn't make sense to process stuff that we don't need. Okay. So if I go here quickly and I go to, there you go. See. Okay. So we're dropping a lot of stuff. Okay.
Okay.
It doesn't make sense to process an OS change for a message that is not bound, for an event that is not bound, okay?
Okay.
Now, keep in mind that these logs are still here because we are still at testing phase, all right? So some of this stuff can be dropped, all right? We will enhance the logs, but at this point, keep in mind, guys, that we went to production very quickly with its very small testing, okay? So it's better to have some more logs at this point to see if something goes wrong, we need to know what's happening, okay? Does it make sense?
Yes.
Now, this is, for example, what I wanted to say with the respecting of order, okay? And so, for example, right, we process all on the same channel, okay? It's to respect the order, right? It's the order stuff is the same, right? We haven't changed it. Okay, does it make sense? Is that clear?
Yes, clear. Thank you.
So maybe this one makes more sense, okay? So they are all on the same one, right? So this is, for example, unbound fixture, okay? So it's okay to be a bit slow. All right. Now, is it clear regarding the unbound and bound stuff?
Yes.
Okay. What else? Something else we did. Okay, so that was one of the, let's say, biggest change, all right? Separating concern. So as I said, fixtures, we only process for whatever is not bound. They are on the slower channels, all right? Anything else for not bound games will drop, all right? And this stuff will go on the parallelization channels. Now, what else? Let me find it. Now, also, we've reduced a lot the hydration stuff. As you know, inside the system, okay, every time we get a message, we hydrate everything from the SDK. Okay, if you guys remember, we hydrate the sport, category, tournaments, match status, booking status, players, competitors, and a lot other stuff, right? You guys all remember the way we used to hydrate the model. We have the common properties model, it's called, okay, inside the Betrader solution. And so what did we used to do before? Every message that we get, we used to hydrate everything, okay? Then we would drop after. So for example, if the game is not bound, we drop it. We drop the message, so we were hydrating for nothing, okay? The other one that we used to do is if, for example, we are processing a fixture change, okay, we still hydrate the players. If we are processing an OS change, okay, we still hydrate the sport, the category, and the tournament, okay, and the booking status, okay. So the common properties model was being hydrated every time to the full stuff that we might need, okay, and then we don't make use of this data. So what we've done is we've, let's say, reduced the amount of hydration that we do based on the message type and also based on if the game is bound or not. Okay, so for example, if a game is already bound, right, we do not need the sport category and tournament. Okay, for a game that has been bound already, the tournament cannot change. Okay, from a provider perspective, okay, it doesn't make sense, okay, that the tournament changes. Okay, if the tournament changes, right, it should be a new game. Same applies for the sport, same applies for the category. Okay, and what else? Players. Okay, so first we try to reduce the players only to NOS changes. Okay, however, then after I spoke with traders, right, they don't even switch on the market for the players. Okay, the player to score, I believe. Okay, it was only used for soccer. So we were always hydrating the players for every type of message and for every type of sport and on every message, right? So now what we've done is first we reduced it only to soccer and those changes only, but now we've switched it off completely, all right? So just for you guys to know, the player hydration is no longer working. It's no longer working because it's switched off because we don't need it, all right? So that's one of them. That's one of the important ones, right? Because we know that the get players takes a lot of time.
Yeah, it took a lot of time.
Who was doing it? I remember that we were Damian. I'm not sure if it was Damian.
Yeah, yeah. Damian noticed that.
Yeah, I forgot who it was, right?
Yeah, it was
I
Damian.
think Kurt had a question there.
Especially for soccer
Sorry, I'm not
players.
seeing the. 1 second.
No, Kurt had a question. Well,
Yeah, question. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
but I
If
don't
it's
see it.
maybe you, Abel, or Vane, but the traders told us for soccer we don't have any player markets, so that was the main
no.
reason why they said you can switch it off completely. Correct?
Yes. Basically, for what I remember, no, there's no like correct score or something like that.
It
Type
was
of player market.
player
Oh,
to score,
player.
including overtime.
Mhm.
Yeah. Will player get a yellow card or something like this?
No, it was just used for player to score
Mhm.
market.
Player, exactly.
Okay.
Okay, so basically the biggest change as well there is we've reduced the hydration of the common properties object for stuff that we need only. Okay, so as we said last time, the code is not very clean, so there's a lot of if statements running around.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
so keep that in mind, right? So it is not the cleanest code. Keep in mind that without a lot of let's say automation testing that we have, right? It's a bit of a problem to change a lot of stuff. Okay,
Yeah.
so the best approach would have been to like change it, but then if we break something, we won't notice. All right, so it's a bit difficult to notice. So for example, a quick one. Okay, if the fixture is bound, okay, already we can only bind the fixture if it's booked. Okay, if it's bound, we don't need to. We don't need it, right? It could be it's a bug. It could be we end up with a problem. All right. So that's why we're sharing this stuff. All right. So we don't get the booking status every time. We only get it, okay, if it is a fixture change as well. All right. So
Okay.
if it's a fixture change, you don't need to get the booking status. It's only used during the fixture change process. All right. So doesn't need it. Okay. What else? Example. The home and away team. Okay. If the game is already in live state, okay, we don't need to get the home and away teams, right? The home and away teams will not change during live. All right.
Okay.
The venue will not change during live either. All right. So if the process, if the game is already live, we don't change it. All right. And they only change on fixture change, right? It doesn't. You don't have any processing for the competitors or for the venues on an OS change or a bet stop or a settlement, right? It doesn't matter, all right? Same for the side mentioned, sports category and tournaments, okay? It's only for when it's not bound, all right? Yes, so this is what I mean by if statements running around, okay? Just to clear a bit the air on what that stuff is. Now, we use the home competitor ID and the away competitor ID and the sport and the category and tournament ID running around in the code. Okay. So we do have some checks in the code later on. So what we've done is, all right, we get this data internally. Okay. So, let's see. Okay. So what we do is every time we receive a message, okay, we try and hydrate the stuff internally. So what do we do by that? What we do is we try and get, okay, the home competitor IDs and the away competitor IDs, okay, the sport category and tournament IDs, its booking states, the date, all right, the venue, and the bound game of ID if available, all right. So Gaston, this is what I mentioned last time, and that we didn't go with the DB package for the simple reason we can go faster. But this stuff will then move to a stored procedure, right? I mean, this is the way we work in the company with a stored procedure. So we'll have to change it, all right, later on.
Makes
But
sense.
but yeah, we can change the stuff. So with this approach, okay, we get the home and the way and the relative information, right? We get it from our internal state, our internal stuff, and we do not need to call the BetTrader API to get it, all right? We use it internally when we want. However, on fixture changes, okay, when it's not bound, right, we still get the data from the API, and if it changes, okay, unless it's bound already and booked, all right, we process the changes, okay? So when it's bound and booked, we don't need to get it. So this is the approach that we went. If something needs to change, that is why we're sharing the information, all right? So if we see a P1 or something, or we need to change data, we try and see where the problem is quicker, all right? And then we see how we can fix it, all right? These are just some quick investigations we did, all right, to reduce the load on the system. Does anyone have any questions till now on that? Okay.
Looks good.
So,
Thank you.
okay, so if you notice, all the fixture changes, okay, when we are bound, all right? When we are bound, we put them in the faster channels, let's say. And if it's not bound, we push them to the slower or unbound channels, all right?
I have a question.
Yes.
Most likely you mentioned it before, but how many channels for the bound?
So for the bound, we have 100.
Okay.
And for the unbound, we have 5.
Okay. And for the odds, how many?
It's the same.
Same, 100.
No, wait. So we have bound channels.
Mm-hmm.
So we have channels for the bound stuff.
They use the same.
Yes. And for
okay,
unbound.
okay.
They have to be the same, right? You cannot have channels different for an off change and for a fixture change
Okay.
and settlement. You need to
Perfect.
respect the order. Okay.
And let's say if, I don't know, in production, they start having like at least 100 events simultaneously, and we start getting delays, what would be the top of the amount of channel we could add for the bound?
We don't know.
Right. Okay, so we will have to test that to.
But so we have to see where the delays are, right? So if we're having delays during the internal processing because of some locks. If we add more channels, it's a bigger problem. Okay.
Okay.
Now we have to see where the delays are. Even though you get 100 events, it does not mean, well, actually, it will not mean that you are splitting over a channel every event. Okay. It's not like that, right? It's
Abel,
not simple, let's say. Okay.
And
Yep.
sorry, look. Yeah.
Right.
No, another question is that we were thinking, we have two investigation tickets to evaluate the internal processing. So we can keep with that because for what I said is mostly on the consuming of the channels and all the stuff, right? Of the information, of the message. So
by internal processing, what do you mean?
The functionality when we get information from the database, save it, how we get it.
Yes, you can try and improve that approach. Let's say, right? It would be
Abel,
this approach.
it might be best. So this will be a bit of a slow build up. So I haven't spoken to MR today, but there's only one BetRadar basketball game booked at the moment that starts at 12:30 p.m. So the plan is to gradually build it up over the weekend, and then once we have the data, we can see. Well, I've got some potential work improving the logs and alerting and stuff like that. So once we have the data, we can see where the issues are. So yeah, I guess the plan is hopefully to run with this version until we have more information. So yeah, we've found sort of making changes during the season it's quite pressurized.
Yes, keep in mind, right, that it doesn't mean that it's going to be perfect. Okay, we know that there might be some still some delays and some locks, all right, inside. That's why we try to reduce the calls on the SDK, and that's why we try to reduce the call on the API as much as possible. Okay, so let's keep an eye out on this stuff. So that is why we suggested to traders to go incrementally, to increase incrementally. Okay, so
Okay.
from 1 to 5 to 10 or 15, let's say. We'll see how it goes. Okay, but hopefully we're trying to reduce as much as possible. Let's say. If we have a look at this screen, so this was yesterday, so this was the first game, which was okay, let's say. And then they tried it with 7 other games. Okay, if you notice, we processed, okay, 2,300 plus messages under the 2-second mark. All right. And yeah, and for
Over
this
5.
one's only, Kurt, forgot.
I think 6 between
Yeah.
Yeah,
2 and
odd
5.
change only. Yeah.
Then
Okay,
4.
so 6 of the messages were between 2 to 5, all right,
Yes.
and 4
Odds.
messages were 5 plus,
Okay.
4 odds.
Or odds
Alright.
odds changes, yes.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so that is the approach we try to, let's say,
But on the
target.
screen, I would say, just to add, guys, think of the first line, right? So we have a total of 5,000 messages. The unbound fixtures only, right? So these are events which we were previously processing or nothing them, and some of them even had their odds we were processing into our database. Now from that, we're just taking 12 fixtures which were booked, and throughout those 12 fixtures, only 2,000 odds changes came out, because these are the bound stuff, right? So imagine if we had all those messages, those 3,000, into the bound, and some of them even had odds changes, how much less processing, basically, we are not putting pressure on our systems. So no wonder BetRadar system was clogging up, right? Apart from also the cleanups that Daniel has been doing within the processing to remove any unneeded calls on the SDK. But yes, I think this chart at least gives you a clear visibility, one of the timeline, the messages, and we need to keep an eye on the last 6 boxes, right? So what is 0 to 2 seconds of odds? What is 0 to 2 seconds of fixtures bound? And then these last 4 boxes is that my agreement, at least with the C-level and trading, is that we have less than 1%, right? Especially on the 5 seconds area. So that is, for me at least, what our internal product SLA is for an acceptable feed for now. But definitely, I mean, 4 on 2,335 is definitely much less than 1%. So that's good.
Yeah,
Thanks.
keep in mind, guys, that before we used to process one after the other, right? And the way that BetRadar works, let's say it would send a couple of fixture changes messages, which could be to letting us know that, listen, hey guys, BetRadar is now offering 10 new events or 20 new events. Okay, so it's the way the provider works. So what that does is, since we know that we are doing high number of calls and the API is a bit slower on that end, we end up going down. All right, so that is where we were seeing the producer up down stuff. All right. One other thing to know, with this approach, we do not have the producer up down anymore. Okay, it will be very hard to capture to have a provider going down, because we will not, hopefully we will not take almost 30 seconds to take the messages out of their queue and into our own. Okay, so that's why you have to monitor it a bit more. We are in the process that we want to implement something with this. Josh is working on some bet acceptance stuff. And we also want to make cancellation tokens inside. So we know about it. So that's why we need to monitor it a bit. Okay. So yes, I think Fede was first. Yep.
It's just a quick question. Like, is this like the way it's to be, or in case something happens, we will rolling back to what we got now, or after this a rollback, it will be a mess.
No, there's no actual mess if we want to roll back. Okay, there is no changes inside database. There's no changes the way we process stuff. Okay, so what will happen is that if we roll back, okay, we will start to get more delays probably, right? And we will start to restart and go down, producer down, up stuff, and they will find high number of delays in the logs. So unless something's broken with this, right?
I'm guessing the only reason we would be doing producer down if our service is down and not consuming, right? Then the age will grow and come.
Yes, that one, and if there's maybe some kind of lock inside that will take 30 seconds to unlock the SDK. So yes,
Yeah.
that
Or
is
the
correct.
database, we cannot
Yeah.
probably like now.
Actually, the database, no, because the database will be internal channels. Okay, so it will not affect the consumption, let's say.
But if we cannot check if it's bound or not bound,
But it will have to lock on that end, yes.
yes. But let's say the database, like right now, there's a P1 incident. The
Mhm,
database is down completely.
mhm.
We would be having, I guess,
Yes.
a connection timeout with the database, whatever.
Because it will take long, yes.
And that will, okay.
Yes.
Now,
You had
another
a question, Kurt?
questions,
You had a
yes.
question, Kurt, or not? Or that's it?
No, sorry.
Okay. Yes. Ben?
Let's say on the odds bound at 5+ seconds,
Mhm.
if we pass the 2%, what the business or the traders will do is minimize the amount of events, or like what would be the action there? Like let's say they start 12, then go 100, and after 101, we start getting more than 1% on the 5+ seconds.
We haven't agreed on what will happen. We're hoping that that doesn't happen. But if it does, we have to obviously try. It's an incident. We need to see why it's delaying. If we have a quick fix, or it's just like hardware, we have to see, or it's like a stored procedure block or whatever. If it's something long term, then probably they will again switch it off. So, yeah.
If we think it's best for them to keep below 100 concurrent events, we can tell them that. It'd be quite rare, I think, for just
We don't know that limit yet. Look, I mean,
Yeah, no, that's why I asked, because we don't know the limit, but that's why the question.
did we ever have 100 events at once?
I think I seen 40 at least.
All on the same feed? I
There
must
was
have.
one weekend we had 200 something, but
Yeah,
because they were trying it out. We're supposed to be trying L Sports, but they tried out BetRadar instead.
yeah, that was
200 at once or shared across the day?
Yeah, concurrent. I think it reached 239 or something.
the Skype channel with.
On the normal weekends, I seen 30 or 40, but like
Yeah, okay.
that's why I was asking. Like, let's say I don't know, the top is 100, and in 101 start giving more than 1%. Maybe it wouldn't be like, okay, let's shut down BetRadar, but let's minimize the events. But I don't know if you guys have spoken to the business related to that.
No, I'm Kurt, if you haven't discussed anything, we haven't, at least from our end.
No, nothing yet. Let's see how this goes. Let's give it a week to test it out, and then we can review
Give it a
the
weekend.
process. A weekend. Yeah.
Can I share my screen for a sec?
Yes, sure. Before any questions, guys, or anything that you still not clear about? I mean, so those are the biggest changes, right? Hydration, splitting of channels. Those are the biggest changes.
Yeah, no, for me, it's clear. Thank you.
Cool. So I'll share a private chat. Sorry, Evan. So I mean, I tend to agree with him here. The logs for L Sports are a bit clearer for me to work through. So I'm not sure if this is possible, but I'd like to get an alert if we do breach that threshold to a channel. So MR's been complaining that he has to alert us of any issues. And trying to send screenshots of issues while he's trying to trade. So if it would be good if we could get a hook and run some sort of alert when we get, I've got 10 messages taking greater than 5 seconds within 30 seconds. So yeah, team, if you want to have a look at that one.
There's the beta acceptance look for that, I think.
Is that going to be anytime soon?
To matter most. We need to see how we can compute that. I mean, it's not as easy to get 10 messages of 5 or percentage of this or a percentage of that. It's not a quick thing you can do in Greylog.
I think we can with
Greylog.
With Greylog. There is notifications, and I've seen Fede. He's here. Yes, he hooked it up. I saw some alerts last time with Greylog sending these type of messages. We just need to make sure that we don't spam the channel for nothing. So we say like an update only once every 5 minutes or something. So, but that is just tweaking the rule.
Yeah, so we've got threshold adjustment in there. Kurt, Daniel, would it be worthwhile having a separate stream for the SDK logs only?
You can if you want to split it. But what's the reason behind it? Is there some particular reason?
It's an older ticket. Is there an easy way for us to identify when the SDK is giving us problems?
Like what? You wouldn't know from.
I mean, the only thing that I can think of then is if the total seconds is high, but the total internal seconds that you have in your logs is acceptable, then most probably, right, the issue is with SDK or reading and things like this, similar to the issue we're seeing lately. So we can say, hey, we have a SDK issue versus internal processing issue. But in theory, it is still an issue, right? The only thing I would definitely do separate if we see that BetRadar is down, right? So, and we need to, but they rarely are, so it's not something that happens often.
I mean, if the feed is down, you would not receive health checks, okay? And the SDK should kill it. The SDK will set the producer down or product down, I think, and it should freeze. If the API or the trader are down. And one thing I forgot to share is the log. I forgot it. So, just for information, guys, we've updated a bit the log of how we calculated the delay. All right. Okay. So just for you guys to see what it is. All right. So correct. We have the process at local time. Okay. This is the one we've processed. We finished. What did I do? Sorry. So process at local time is the time we finished processing it. All right. The provider created timestamp is what the provider sends. Okay, the provider server timestamp. The received is the received time, and that the SDK also writes. Let's say, all right. But we're also making use of it. Sorry. We also have another time now, which is the start processing. The start processing is when the message started to process. All right. Not when we received it from the channel. not when we received it from BetRadar, but when we dequeued it from the channel and started to work with it, okay, which includes hydration and the internal processing, okay, so that is the start. You had a question, Abel, or I answered it?
No, you answered it.
Okay, so is the start is when we dequeue it from the channel, okay, and we start to work with it, all right? The match ID is the end part, all right, of the BetRadar event, all right? So BetRadar events are a star match where we're taking the number. This is the bound fixture, okay? We are writing it down. We are writing if the message is for a bound fixture or not, all right? We are writing down the type of the message, which is the event, basically, all right? It's on fixture change, OS change, or whatever it could be, whatever else. Total seconds, all right? Total seconds is the difference between the processed, all right, and the provider, all right? This is the actual time we should be working on, okay? The old one was not like this, okay? The old one used to work from the received up until we were done, okay? So the all stuff, all the hassle on the logs, okay, started when we made the calculation from the provider and until we finished, which is the actual time, all right, we are processing the message. If we received it 1 minute ago, okay, and the provider created it an hour ago, it doesn't mean we are fine, okay? And the logical stuff is the time should be as close to the provider created as possible, all right? The slowest, the faster we are to process since the provider created the message, the better it is, okay? The faster odds we have on site, okay? So this is the true delay of the message between the provider and once we are done with it. When we are done with it, it means that the data is in databases and it can end up on site, okay? But that's out of our responsibility, let's say. Now, that is the total seconds. The total internal seconds is the difference between the received and the processed, okay? The internal delay, all right, it is calculating from the start processing, all right, until we received. Okay, so like this, we know how long we've taken, let's say on the channels, okay, how long it took to be dequeued. And the processing seconds is how long we've taken to hydrate the data and do whatever we want, like templates or whatever in case of an change templates and blah, 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 and process every market and write it to the database, all right? So that is what these 4 parameters mean. And then stable odds feed is true or false based on the, as it used to be before, right? So
Provider up or down.
wait a second, thing producer up, down, so.
The bound fixture as well is there, right? You covered.
Yes, I said the bound fixture that,
Uh-huh.
yeah, for games that are bound, it will be true. For the rest, it will be false. Right? Yeah, that's what I wanted to show. So this is the last. What is it? I'm not sure why we don't have bound true.
There's what time frame is that?
It is, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, there's nothing.
At that time.
Yeah, nothing bound today.
Well, it's yesterday, but I think it was at the end of the bound stuff, right? So when we're done. Yeah, so something like this. Yeah, that's what I wanted to show because I forgot to mention it. And now, just FYI, just for your information, we're publishing this message all the time. All right. So before we used to only log when it's either greater than 2 seconds, when it's a warning, when it's greater than 5, it's an error. Now we're publishing it all the time. All right. So it's still being appended to the other message as it was before. That is why we have this and not starting here. Okay, to filter out the double logs. Okay, so if I leave it here, you will see this message on itself and you'll see it appended to here. We left it here for the simple reason that it might be useful to debug something or whatever, right? So that's why we kept it. But to extract some metrics and to extract the graphs and to see what's happening, okay, it's simpler to just have one consolidated log, let's say, where we can see everything, okay, which is both informational, level as warnings and errors. Okay. Yes, Gaston?
Do we still have the differentiation between different levels regarding the
Yes.
delay? Oh, okay.
Yes.
We log everything, but we still have that
Now
Yeah.
level 3 would be
categorized.
errors. Level 3 are errors. Okay.
Perfect.
Level 4s are warnings. And level 6s are normal ones.
Cool. Thanks.
No problem. Anything else, guys? I'm not thinking of anything at this point. No. We haven't merged it to main yet. I'm not sure what you guys think. Maybe we should give it some time to see how it goes before merging to main. I don't think we will be doing some work on the BetTrader at least this week, I think.
No, we just have some investigation for the processing, internal processing.
Now, if you are going to work on the internal processing stuff, that stuff is identical as it was before, and it has not changed, right? So the only difference is where it's being called from, okay? But it will not make a difference. It's still the same, okay? We've also this portal loud stuff which changed. Well, if you remember, since now we have the internal sport, we are making use of it if we have it. Okay, so if it is 0 or we're not populated, all right, we hit the API. If not, we use the one that's already populated that we've retrieved from our internal databases. Okay, the sport will not change for the game.
Should we see a diff with main?
Sorry.
Should we see a diff with main? Just to understand if we missed anything.
Yeah, I can if you want. There's some changes to the sections, all right, so they are now in regions. What else? Yeah, what I wanted to say, because you guys mentioned the internal processing. Let's be careful what we can change and what not. There are some stuff, some consolidated stuff in the NuGet, which is available in Endgame, which is being used by both Elsport, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, Josh.
Yeah.
And
Elsport and
Radar.
Radar.
Yes, exactly.
Keep in mind that the internal processing is quite fast, right? So, I mean, it's sub 500 millisecond. To be fair, we are seeing it that it's a bit higher than usual, which is 400 millisecond or 500 millisecond. I think normally it's a bit faster.
So, like, should we do the investigation or better to?
It's up to you guys if you want. If there's anything to improve, we can. But I mean, I don't see any lock. I haven't seen locks inside, right, in the processing yet, except for some stuff on the fixture changes. Normally, it's pretty fast, but I'm sure we can heavily improve this stuff. Okay, but I think what we need to start doing as well, if we're going to keep with the solution, we need to start to see how we can fix, for example, hydrating the common properties object. Okay, so instead of one common method, we split it. Right, so
exactly.
One thing.
That was my other question. Like, if should we do technical depths for refactoring, basically?
There's a lot.
Maintaining your solution, but
yeah, the common properties can be done with inheritance as I mean, extracting the common as common, and then you make you make use of inheritance to return the object that you need based on the type that you're doing. We can see if we can improve it with multiple instances of the stuff, right? Remember, we're also on Docker on this. We also need to see the SDK version 2 because now the one that we have will be deprecated, right?
Yeah.
There are some breaking changes, so there's a lot of stuff that we can continue to work on.
Okay.
But if the team has already started, we can. Yeah.
No, those were some thoughts for next sprint. That begins next week.
Yeah. Also, I've added an environment. I forgot about this. We used to make use of the logging environment. Let's say I don't know why. So logging Guelph additional fields, and we use this as the environment, which technically should not be right. This is about logging. This is logging. If we need an environment, we keep it an environment, right? I know I mentioned it bit radar, it should be environment only. Can be fixed. We can also work on making this stuff, Mabel, transformed through the channel out to the pipeline instead of having everything hard coded, right? I think we can do it with TFS, as far as I know.
With Azure or
This is Azure or TFS?
no, this is Jenkins.
It's through Jenkins.
Yes.
Yeah, I deployed multiple times through Jenkins. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So
make this
to do these
transformative,
variables
right?
a bit more dynamics, like
Yes. So if, for example, you want to change from 100 to 50 or whatever,
to
you
input
don't
it
have to make a
from the
commit.
Jenkins, maybe.
Because
Instead
like
of
this, you have to commit and build from a branch and then release it.
so
Okay?
like would be better to input it from Jenkins. Like okay,
You have to be variables, yes.
okay.
Something we can work on as well.
Yes.
What else?
We can.
Just the changes. So the team had done changes. I think Damian and I forgot who else worked on it. We had stuff consolidated, right, with the asynchronous and the channel implementation. Okay, just to keep it, just to make it a bit faster. Let's say, I used what I had done on the POC.
Mhm.
Okay, so I made that. Okay, because it was much harder to start splitting and going back, and because everything was in one thing. Okay, so I built on the POC that I had. Okay, so
Okay. No problem.
what else? Yeah, the markets that I said. This is the player to score. I left it here just if something happens, right? I wrote a comment that it's a MAR. What else? Yeah, the task processor, the internal task processor, we've removed the lock, okay, that it was there just for when it's switching off. Okay, we removed it. It doesn't really make a big difference. And also added a quick logging, let's say, all right, to see how long the task takes, and I'm logging as information, all right. This is stuff that we can remove, but it's there for, debugging stuff, since we are still at a POC stage, let's say. With the better if we have more logs than less. All right, I'm also passing in the name of the task being executed. So if we go here and we filter on look, you can see it. All right. Okay. I mean, this is just to see maybe if we have something, popping up, let's say. Right.
You changed
What
up
else?
CSV for me.
Huh?
You changed the log with a CSV format for me.
Yes, the logging with the semicolons, no? Yeah.
So,
It's
so, so,
working.
you want all that stuff as fields, Kurt? Or
Yeah.
Yes, that would be great if we can do it like other sports and we change them
Yep.
to fields. It will be, can count it, we can do a lot of things there. But yes, right now why I asked him to be a CSV format is because I'm exporting this to, the message basically. I have a file in Excel, and when I import it, it just automatically calculates this, 0 seconds to 2 seconds and things like this. But at least from what we have till now, I achieved this as well in the Greylog dashboard. So at least I kind of made that process a bit redundant. So
I think Emma's online now, so I've got 4 tennis games active. I'm not sure about the P1, P2 stuff, but
it's coming back up as well. So
yeah.
Right, Fede? I think Fede is on it.
Yeah, we are back online now.
Perfect. Okay, I think then.
What else I wanted to share?
I have one question.
I already have one.
Whoop.
Let's see how this works. What I wanted to share, one before I forget, Abel, we need to change this as well, because there with the pluses on the message delay, we need to go with a string builder, right? And just take a note of it. We'll fix it. And the logging stuff, right? we need it as fields. So I remember Damian had done the investigation on the Gelb variables and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That investigation needs to be what stuff we can move to variables, okay, inside logging, but makes sense, okay? We don't have to log which method we've done, executed 1 method, 2, 3, blah, 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 right?
Ah,
We need to
yes,
see-
no, I know.
We need to see which stuff is important, okay?
Like
And
the primary one maybe should be the one that we're showing the delays and all that stuff, right?
yeah, so
Yeah, I would start with that, Ibuga.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
what else? Yeah, that's it. The processing stuff that I mentioned, it's split. I mean, this class is the most affected one,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
I've mentioned the support, the split of the channels, and yeah, that's fine. What else?
If you use Kurt's dashboard, don't change the date back too far.
No, yeah, that as well.
Don't go back 30 days or you'll break the log.
Because you'll break it.
I did it.
What else?
Okay,
Yeah, that's about it, I guess.
perfect.
Any questions?
One small point I would say is, I mean, if you can and if you have some time, guys, review this code, these changes, and ask any questions to Daniel tomorrow. Especially if we have an issue in the weekend. I think Martin might be. I'm not sure who's on call, but
Martin.
we should. Martin, yeah, we should have a bit of visibility of how this works. Ask questions and know how to debug it, right? If the need arises. So.
Yeah, let's see. Hopefully, there's no need to call on call.
Do we know how many events will be booking on the weekend, more or less?
Nope. I have no
Okay.
clue, at least.
We told them
Cool.
how many you want, you know.
Keep in mind, folks, that on Monday, college basketball starts, and that is a shitload of events. So
That will
don't
be
worry.
on L Sports.
No, but basketball is not on Berradar.
No. But just like from a service point of view, right? End game side of things. So
It's
like
not on the trader.
Basketball, no.
no, it's on L-Sport, but just saying like we're gonna have in L-Sport side of things, we're gonna have a shitload of games as well. So expect a lot of traffic on
Same database.
from Monday onwards. Not just during the weekends, please. Like this from like for the remaining of November, we're gonna have a shitload of games during the week, not just
So why
weekends.
don't we switch off basketball from the trader?
I
They use
think
it for
it's
some
just-
European stuff.
Yeah. The agreement with BetRadar is that the main
Okay.
American sports, NHL, NFL, NBA, we cannot do them because if they find out,
Okay.
There's licensing behind it.
exactly.
Okay. So not
There's some
part of
IMG
basketball.
data deal that you're supposed to pay for. Well,
Exactly.
Okay.
But just keep that in mind, folks. Like it's just not gonna be weekends anymore for a few weeks, if you know what I mean. So just keep that in mind.
Okay. I'm not sure if we can filter anything on this on BetRadar, I think, right? I don't think we
No,
can.
there's no Berradar
controllers.
filter.
So there is. So he has BetRadar. It's one.
Four
two,
events.
three.
No, but you can filter by sports and leagues, and
I
therefore
can't filter
you
by
can-
BetRadar only, right?
Or control FBR.
Yes, I know. I was just asking.
You can edit. New feature. New filter.
Okay. Yeah, that's it, guys. If you have any questions or anything.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Sorry if I was not clear, but I have a tendency of not explaining well, but I tried.
that was very good, Daniel. Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Okay,
Good job.
Yeah,
let's see
no,
how it
was
goes.
good.
Hopefully it's good. Thanks, guys.
I know.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
See you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.